What's going on, Robert Rossi?
Good morning, sir, or afternoon, or whatever time zone you're in.
Yeah.
Happy days.
We're slightly delayed today.
Yeah, we're slightly.
But I think it's cool.
It's all right, man.
I think we were struggling a little bit with what to talk about.
I don't think we were struggling with what to talk about in a sense of we didn't have anything to talk about. I think we struggled in the sense that there were so many topics that we could talk about that we had to kind of narrow it down to something that we hadn't even decided upon until just a minute ago.
And I think that's like that is kind of like one of the frustrations of this kind of a thing, right? Is figuring out what to talk about, the frustrations of what to talk about, and what are people interested in, and how to keep people engaged, and I think that brought us to your subject today.
That's the thing I'm going to mention about being engaged. By the way, I'm Robert Rostick at TRG Studio.
And I'm Bevo from Beecher, Maine. Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of Raising Unmanageables, episode 70.
70. Yeah.
Bringing it to a close almost at the end of the year.
Yes.
Coming into the end of the year very strong, I think. A lot of good things happen. So let's go to what you were just mentioning, because I'm interested to hear about the frustrations you found of being a creative.
Well, one of the things about the frustration that I found about being creative is not getting credit. So let's make sure that we introduce our producer, executive producer Mason Gehring, who puts this thing together. And who else do we have here?
And we have our director of photography back here, and our editor and natural just born badass right now, Alex Zadarozny. She's always comes in with a good attitude.
Except for today.
However, she's still smiling, and that's a good thing. So I'm glad we at least made it to that point. So thank you, Alex, for showing up.
I was saying earlier, she came in here today. She looked like this.
Yeah.
And normally when she comes in here, she looks like this. And it was a big difference today. So I just wanted to make sure that...
was it because her neck was more protruded?
Yeah, slightly.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, okay, let's get on to the things that really frustrate or bother me about this creative process. And one of the things that frustrate the living hell out of me is when people ask me, is photography my passion?
Oh, okay.
Frustrates the living life out of me.
Why so?
Because of the word passion.
Okay. Passion. I know you have concerns about the word passion.
Yeah.
Go for it.
It's unsustainable. Passion itself. And it can turn on a dime. And what I mean by that is that you go out and you're creative. You got your wares, your artwork, your music, your photography, and you go out and you present it to 2 or 3 people, and you get good feedback, but you don't get any work.
Right.
Then you shuffle the pavement again. You show your work to other people. You direct them to your website or Instagram page. And yes, you get a lot of likes, and people tell you that, wow, your work is really, really beautiful, and you must be passionate about it.
Right.
And you get no work.
Okay. So what I'm
and then, because you get no work, and because you felt passionate in the beginning, you felt this, you embraced and embodied that word passion. When you didn't get any work, you decided that this wasn't for you, and that you're no good. And that what you do sucks, even though everybody is telling you you must be passionate. So you give it up and you go do something else. So I get back to that word, passion. What the hell is it?
I think
bothers the hell out of me.
Passion is it's a jumping off point to a lineage or a journey, right? We always talk about what we do as a journey. And I think the more you look at your life as a journey and not a destination, then I think passion comes in with regard to how you make that decision to at least start something, right? Whether or not it's the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do or the hard thing to do or the easy thing to do, the passion comes in because it's like, that's that thing that gets your blood flowing to say, you know what, I may change something about my life. I may change my job. I may decide to be an entrepreneur. I may do something differently than what I'm doing. And I think you need that fire in the beginning to shift you from point A to point B, to at least start something. I do agree that things fizzle when they begin to be mundane, or they feel like they're kind of stagnant and moving very linear, and you haven't felt like you've gone up a rung on the ladder, or you've progressed at all. I do agree with that part. However, I think it's a natural progression of this thing we call a journey. And passion is that thing that just gets you started, I think.
Well,
I remember, really quickly, I remember at the beginning of becoming a business owner, watching a lot of videos. There's got to be other people out here like me. Let me watch all of them. Coming across the people that I like. I was very passionate about it. And, but then, so those videos got the fire burnt underneath me to go out and do something about it. And then what I think people will find once they progress is that passion isn't sustainable in that next phase. At that point, you need to have learned some other tools to keep you progressing into those areas where you're looking to be at, right? So for me, that was not watching the videos as much, because now I find myself actually doing the work that I was watching in the beginning. So the work that I was passionate about, that I didn't have any way or any reference on how to start, now I'm watching them, and now those videos are like, I've seen this one. I'm not even gonna check in today because I was at this point where I've actually started doing the things that they were telling me to do in the first place. So to some extent, I think I agree with you, but I think passion is important, at least in the beginning, because that's the thing that makes you realize what it is that you want to do and at least jump into doing it.
Now, see, that's where I have the problem, because people jump into doing something and they go, wow, I'm really passionate about this. But the moment a little thing happened that's negative, that passion becomes fragile, and they fall off from it. And when they fall off from it, they go do something else, and they get passionate about that. So where is the what I think is the right word? Where's the commitment?
I think the commitment, again, passion, I think is a small part, and I think commitment is another part of it. So especially when you're young, having a passion for something that may change because the wind is blowing, right?
Like when I went through puberty. Woo.
Well, I don't know about that. Anyway. However,
different story. Okay.
The way different story than I was prepared to talk about today. So, but I think when you're young, you have the time for passion, right? You have the time to be into the things that you want to be into today, and then change your mind tomorrow and go do something tomorrow, and then change your mind the next day and go do that thing the next day, because I think it's feeding you information on the things that you actually want to do.
I agree with that 100%.
And I think that passion is just that energy, that desire to do something, right? So I think that's what's necessary, because a lot of people don't even have that desire burning in them to actually get up and do something.
Well, I think that everyone has that desire to get up and do something, the desire to want to do something, even if they're sitting at home watching television all day and becoming a couch potato.
Right.
I'm sure that they have a desire to want to do something. But it takes the commitment to doing it that actually pushes that from a flame to a fire.
Then I think that's the next phase. So the passion is sitting there trying to start the fire, right? Trying to figure something out.
Never thought about it like that.
Right.
So it's that little kindle thing.
It's the kindle. You're trying to get the kindling, right? So like you got to be in it enough to want to start something, right? Now you got a little bit of a fire going, and to keep it going, it's going to take consistent time, consistent patience, consistent learning, consistent doing, practice, to keep that fire burning at that same rate, right? And when it drops, you have to consistently tend to it to bring it back where it is. But if it gets too out of control, you got to consistently tend to it to bring it back down where it is. So I think that they're just parts of a procedure of rebuilding ourselves.
And speaking of the part about where it gets too big and it goes out of control, I see that when people blow up too fast. They get all of the accolades, all of the attention, and all of the work too fast, without having gone through the process or taken a few extra steps in the journey, that they burn out or flame out, as to go with your analogy.
Right.
And so what I guess what I'm getting at is that I would like if people would reallocate that word to the part about saying, I want to do something, regardless of what it is, and regardless of whether or not you have a passion for it. Because I will tell you this, any person that you're with, if you're stuck on an island, you will learn and grow to like them,
Right.
regardless of what the deal is. If you two are the only ones there, and no matter what job I may take on,
Right.
I will grow and learn to like it. And without the passion portion of it, and I may even get really, really, really good at it, to the point where it becomes something that keeps me going, keeps me sustainable as far as my growth in my life. So that's why I guess I push the word passion apart, because I get it so often. You must be passionate. In fact, let me tell you a little story of what happened the other day. I was out on Gulfport, out making pictures, and walked by this group of wedding party or to-be wedding party, group of girls and a couple of guys, and they were all dressed, with the outfits that say, I am sexy, I am young, I am beautiful, and such. And a group of us were out there, and I said a group of us photographers were out there. And one of the photographers walked past, and one of the ladies looked over and said, "Oh, look at that camera. Are you a professional?" And the guy goes, "No, I work for a cement company. I just shoot. But that's a professional camera, so you must be a professional." And I was in the background. I had my little, my really expensive camera with my little lens on it. And then went by and said, and somebody said, "Well, he's not professional, he got a little lens." And so they applied what they see as far as equipment with something that is equated to my profession.
Actual skill set.
Yeah, skill set, which is not the case.
Right.
And so when I see people go, you must be passionate about something. You must be, it's because of the tools that you're carrying and not the mind that you have.
Gotcha.
And I guess that's where I get upset about it.
The only place I really honestly get upset about passion is when certain people can have it and it's called passion, and then certain people can have it or display it and it's called emotions.
Yes.
Right. So
yes.
if you're an angry white dude in the boardroom, you can have passion.
Right.
But if you're an angry black dude in the boardroom, you're emotional.
Right. And we need to call the cops.
Right. And that's the only time I don't like that word. And it's the same.
It's the same with women.
Right. It's the same. It's the same with women and things like that as well.
Let me make sure that our audience understands something. I am black, and you can see that, and I'm very freaking proud of that I'm black. You're white, and I'm sure you should be proud of that. And there's nothing wrong with that. What I'm saying is that about the difference in color is how society treats us differently, even though we're the same. Even though we share the same restaurants, share the same toilets, share sometimes the same office, and we work and we get along together, except that society as a whole tend to want to put us in a different category, and we're not. And back to that emotional thing, you're right. Whenever I raise my voice, whenever another guy raises his voice that might be different than me, it's like, wow, look at that passion in his heart. Look at that, he's got belly in the fire.
Fire in the belly?
Fire in the belly, however way it is. I'm backwards about everything because I'm dyslexic in the mind and also in the voice.
Where else would dyslexia lie?
That is my point about it,
right.
Is that when one is recognized as passion and the other one is recognized as something else.
Right.
And they're both the same thing. They're both are a drive to do something.
Right.
And I love the fact that when people have drive.
So how long do you think you'll be passionate about that one thing right there? Because you were pretty passionate just right now.
I wasn't passionate.
Or super emotional about it.
I was.
Were you passionate or emotional?
I was neither passionate nor emotional. But here's what I say to people all the time.
Okay.
All the time. I said, I'm never right or wrong about anything.
Right.
But I always have an opinion. And I want that opinion to be heard. And the reason why I want it to be heard, not because I'm right or wrong about it is because if I don't stand up and say something,
Mhm.
then I don't exist.
I could dig that.
Mm.
And I think with regard to that whole argument, I don't know which one is right or wrong. If passion should be excluded for how we behave or not,
I don't think
I
it should be.
do understand that a lot of people may use passion as an entry point into getting the rest of their
Mhm.
life started
Absolutely.
and moving on to doing something
And
else.
if they want to call it passion, great. It's just one of those things that I hate hearing
Mhm.
because what's behind it is not the definition that I think it should be.
Okay.
And that's what it boils down to. Again, I'm not right and or wrong about this. Not what it's about. It's about opinion.
Right.
It's another thing that I hate. I hate the word kiddos. Hate it.
Who calls
Hey,
anybody kiddos?
Kiddos. People call people kiddos.
Oh yeah.
I do.
And I hate that. Of course, there are a number of words in my household that I can't use. I can't use the word fart in my household.
Wow.
Kim hates it.
That's terrible. I'm
Hates
so
it.
very sorry for that.
I can't use
Wait,
it.
plus isn't kid just isn't that what you call a baby goat?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, I have a question.
I have 3 answers.
Earlier, we were talking to Alex about if she identified, and we should talk to her one day about this
Uh-huh.
on here. But if she identified as a creative,
Yeah. Oh, that's yeah. Now,
And-
creative. That's another word.
right?
That's another big word.
And she mentioned that she had never heard of creative as a, did you say noun? As a
That's
noun,
a noun. Yeah.
before she started working with us.
hmm
And what do you have to say to people who are in that similar situation with regard to what's a creative, what's not a creative? Because I think we say it all the time, and I think a lot of the times creative gets displayed or gets put on people who can actually produce a work of art,
Mhm.
right, of some sort, who can
Yes.
take a picture, who can draw a picture,
Mhm.
who can paint a picture.
And make
But-
music and,
right.
and write and so forth.
But a
Yes.
lot of times I don't think it's applied to people who can cook or people who can figure out how to get us fiscally out of deficits as a country. You know what I mean? Like I think all those people are creatives at some way, shape, or form. You have to apply some kind of abstract thinking that's aside from what your actual skill set is to get that job done.
The word creative and artist, those are two different words to me. Mm.
How so?
Mm.
And take your time.
All right, take it now. Okay, I believe, and Mason mentioned this earlier.
Okay.
I believe that we all are creative.
Mm.
I don't believe that we all are artists.
I believe that a point of what we do is artistry at every level, though. I think at every level of being a creative, there's artistry involved in it.
I agree with you 400%. And here's where I make the distinction. I think people can be creative and carry on with a 9-to-5 job and they work for someone else
Hmm.
because they're given a task to do and then they complete that task.
Right.
And they find ways of completing that task that might be different from the guy in the next cubicle, the gal down the hall
Mhm.
in the office.
Right.
So yeah, I believe that you can be creative, but an artistry, I think is individualized. What is it you do for yourself from the inside that emanates outwardly that says something about you?
Hmm.
And that's why I make the distinction between creative and artist and an artist. I had a big problem with my taxes about 15, 16 years ago or
Mhm.
so. And I was underwater, several $1,000s with the IRS. When I walked into this one guy's office and said, "Look, I need help." And he said, "Okay, give me your paperwork." And he got it and then gave it back to me about an hour and a half later and came back. And the IRS owed me $400.
Hmm.
I went, damn. That was creative. That was creative.
I wish you could have seen his face from this angle. That was hilarious.
So yes, I believe people can be creative.
Right.
But when I asked him about what is it that he's doing for himself, because he found out, he saw that I was a photographer and all this kind of stuff.
Hmm.
And he says he loves art. He loves buying it. He loves being around it, but he could never be an artist. So that's where I picked up the distinction, because he looked toward me as an artist. Well, I don't even see myself that way, as you probably already I've stated that several times. But I thought that he was extremely creative in what he did, but that was for someone else instead of doing for himself.
Right.
So that's where I make the distinction.
I mean, I think we're all artists. Just like I think if you can walk, if you are able to walk, and that's not a put down on anyone who can't, but I think you have an able body, you can probably be an athlete of some sort if you put the time into it. Sure. I think being an artist, outside of the just inherent need to be an artist, I think you can learn to be whatever kind of artist you are supposed to be at that time. If you decide that that's what you want to do.
What you just said was very important. What type of artist you decide to be. If you say to me, and this comes from a podcast, by the way, about the brain. If you say to me, I am going to be an artist who's going to make $400,000 a year, and you say that, and you don't work toward that, then what kind of artist are you? What you're doing is you're categorizing yourself in order to fail at that particular goal, rather than put it in. I'd like to be a person who's producing this kind of work throughout the year.
Right. I was speaking from a position about artistry, about being an artist from a position of sometimes some artists don't look at untrained artists as real artists sometimes, right? However, there is a whole sector of untrained artists that get a lot of visibility, even from esteemed artists, because or not esteemed artists, but established artists, and that's in this whole realm of folk art.
Yeah, I love folk art.
So folk art gets praise from a lot of people because of the untrained nature of it. But they are so prolific in the untrained nature of it that it's actually, they just learn to work in that space.
Right, yes.
And it's not like they're bad artists anymore, because you can't do that shit for that long and then still be a bad artist, still be an untrained artist. They just know how to produce that type of work because that's what type of artist they are.
On a consistent basis.
On a consistent basis. Yeah. So then that's the perspective I was talking about. So Robert Rostick, thank you for another fantastic conversation.
Oh, this has been very, very interesting. And I really want to thank you guys out there for actually listening to my rant. And all of this stuff that we talk about each week.
Because it's really hard sitting here listening to his rant. So I appreciate there's other people out there to do it and enjoying me listening to it.
So what I really want to know from you guys, I want to know if you're sharing this, if you're putting it out there, telling your friends about it. Because, you could be spending your time on the couch watching some other channel, but you need to take your time to come here and listen to this kind of stuff, because it will help to inspire you. I know it each week it inspires me. So, Brian, why don't you take us out this week?
This is a hard job for me, man.
I know. I'm pushing it over just this one time.
You passing the buck to me.
Just this one time. That's it.
Everybody, before I close out, please like, share, comment, hit the notification button, and any of our platforms so that you get this content coming to you every week. And with that being said, thank you for tuning in, and spend a little time every day being unmanageable.